I remember that night at the bar, like it was carved into my skull. A massive guy stood in front of me, gripping his glass like it was the skull of an enemy. He was crying. A man, tears streaming down his face, in the middle of pounding music and the stench of sweat, spilled liquor, and half-baked testosterone. His girlfriend had just left him. And then he said something to me that I've never forgotten. I don't know who I am anymore. I didn't comfort him. I didn't say a word. I just looked into his eyes and realized this was a crack in the structure of the world. Not war, not money, not politics, but emotion. Wet shards that were supposed to stay buried. If there's one thing I've learned after living like a predator among men, it's this. Emotion is the only weakness a man has. And I decided it had to be erased from the root. Not with advice, not with pills, not with meditation, but with a method so ruthless, you'll be disgusted with yourself for using it, but after that, you'll dominate. No more doubt, no more fear, no more does she still love me. Only action, power, and a silence as cold as steel. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to wipe emotion from yourself, not to become a robot, but to become a new species, a kind of man society can't control. You're about to unlock a secret humanity is buried for thousands of years. And it begins with one rainy night, one freak, and the mass disappearance of men who once knew how to crawl. Emotion is something injected into men before they even learn to speak. Now, don't cry, sweetheart. A boy should know how to share. You need to have empathy for others. Each of those lines is a shackle, a golden shackle, a gentle one, a lullaby-like shackle, but still a shackle. You grow up believing that emotions are necessary to understand yourself. Wrong. You don't need to understand anything. You need control. Emotion is a reaction, and reactions never hold the power. The one who dominates doesn't react, he acts. I began my first experiment on myself. I didn't cry at my father's funeral. Didn't feel sadness when my ex held hands with my best friend. Didn't flinch when I heard I'd lost my job. I asked myself only one thing: what's next? My mind rejected all meaningless questions like, why me? Why is life always so hard? Do I deserve this? Those are questions for the weak. You might feel this like a blaring alarm in your chest. Part of you is screaming, but emotions make us more human. My answer, no. Emotions make you controllable. They make you stay silent when you should rage. Make you forgive the traitor. Make you hesitate instead of act. Do you know how many empires collapsed from a single moment of weakness? Now imagine walking into a dark room. Inside is a single switch. Flip it and the entire emotional region of your brain shuts off. No more thrill, no more regret, no more love, only choice. I built that switch. Not a physical button, but a neural reflex chain. I call it cold mode. When you activate it, you no longer ask, how do I feel? You only ask, what needs to be done? And then you'll do it immediately. No trembling hands. No heartache. I started teaching this to men once labeled failures. One had survived a suicide attempt. One was betrayed by his wife. One had lost everything in business. I watched them learn to breathe like predators. No blinking, no emotional responses. I told them, if you want to live like the strong, bury your emotions like you'd bury the body of an enemy. And then something strange happened. When emotion vanished, decision-making tripled in speed. Their voices deepened. Their words became sharp and deliberate. They stopped apologizing during disagreements. They started giving orders. And what about women? They responded in two ways: fear or fascination, because instinctively, they're drawn to a man who is no longer ruled by emotion, especially not their own. You're starting to see what's happened, aren't you? A generation of men who no longer cry, no longer hesitate, no longer doubt themselves. Men who no longer need to be understood. Men reprogrammed to act, fight, and dominate. You started to understand why they rule, and now you face a choice. Stay the understanding man, well-liked, emotionally available, and forgotten in death, or step into the dark with me, erase emotion, and rewrite the history of mankind. The first scene takes place in a meeting room. You're seated in the center. White lights shine down on your face. White lights shine down on your face, expressionless. In front of you sit 5 men. All hold titles. All fear losing their positions. All speak in tones that are damp, spineless like clothes that never fully dry. They ask you to be flexible. They want you to consider the group's emotional dynamic. One of them, the one with the purple tie and a voice soft as raw dough, looks at you and says, "We're a family here, right?" You say nothing. You just look. The look of someone who's deleted the empathy function. There is no we, no family, only the objective. And anything that stands between you and the objective must be crushed. You pulled out a stack of documents and tossed them onto the table. Your voice isn't loud, but it's cold, precise. Cut 30%. Eliminate 2 departments. Cancel all emotional-based bonuses. Keep only those who generate value. No one says a word. And you know in that moment, you're the only wolf among sheep. They look at you like you're a psychopath. You are a psychopath, but you're the right kind of psychopath. As you walk out of the room, an assistant passes by. Her eyes flicker to you for just 1 second, and you see it clearly. That look wasn't fear. It was admiration. She had never seen someone act with such brutal decisiveness without needing emotion to justify it. She didn't understand why, but her biology did. And then you realize you don't need to be charming. You don't need to be gentle. You just need to be uncontrolled by emotion. The rest of the world will naturally fall into place around you. When you get home, it's raining. You sit in the dark, no lights on. Not because you're sad, but because you don't need light to know where you're going. You remember that first night, the night you began training in cold mode. You threw yourself into extreme situations to be humiliated without reacting, to lose what you loved without clinging. You disconnected every weak nerve like cutting off useless body parts. And now you are the final product. No emotional reflex, no fluctuations, no need for acceptance, only to go in. The ability to crush anything in your way. You walk into the bar, the same one where you once watched a man cry. And now you see a whole pack of them, the same kind, soft, shattered. A cocktail of liquor and sorrow creating the scent of weakness. One of them walks up to you and asks, "Do you ever feel fear?" You look at him and answer with a sentence that silences him completely. "I don't feel anything, and that's why I win." Do you want to know what happens when a man learns how to dismantle his own heart? To manually freeze every emotional nut? He becomes a predator in a tailored suit, untouchable, unmanipulatable, immune to promises, to tears, And then, one by one, other men start noticing him. Some scoff, some resent, but most start to imitate. First, the way he speaks, then the way he looks, then the way he cuts the cord to the thing that had caged them since childhood. Emotion. No one teaches them. They just see and they choose. In the shadows, a new species begins to form. Not traditional men, not alphas, not nice guys, not sigmas, but cold men. Blood still flows, hearts still beat, but the mind has no room for emotion. And by the time society realizes it, it's too late. They're everywhere. In boardrooms, in the military, in underground networks, even in the bedrooms of the world's most powerful women. You stand in front of the mirror. No one is around. No applause. No admiring eyes. Only you and the mirror and the reflection staring back a man who no longer knows fear. no longer knows joy, no longer knows love. You've won. The world has bowed down. No one questions your decisions. No one dares to call you ruthless. They don't even have words powerful enough to describe you anymore. You've stepped beyond the language of ordinary men. But then a thought drifts in. Not an emotion, just a signal. A tiny ripple deep inside your brain. If I've erased emotion from myself, am I still human? You look directly into the mirror, into your own eyes, no flinching. And then you exhale a sentence quiet, almost whispered. The first words you've spoken that you didn't choose to say. They slipped out like a small blade. Maybe I'm no longer human. I'm something else. No need for love. No need for what they call connection. No need for reasons. Only results. Domination. To live as someone untouchable. You don't turn away. You don't smash the mirror. You just stand there and accept it. There is no way back. You've transformed yourself into the one thing all men deep down want to become. Not to be loved, not to be admired, but to never be hurt again. To never tremble again in front of this chaotic, trivial, emotional world. And I'm the one who's been speaking to you this entire time. I am that part of you. I am not gentle. I do not forgive. I do not soften. I am the voice you hear in rage. The pounding heartbeat when you stand alone in danger and choose not to run. I am the part of you that cannot be denied. You can't kill me. You can't silence me. The only thing you can do is listen.